natural resources, energy, and information communication, and also the medicine biology. This should be the infra technology of the society in the 21st century. So carbon can contribute to all the infrastructural technology. So there are a lot of chance for carbon to apply all the important technology. And new carbon or nanocarbon, which is controlled in the size of the nanometer scale, should be very, very promising. And not interdisciplinary region, all the science, nanometer scale, all the science should be fused together. So there's no more boundary for the chemistry, physics, and medicine, material science. So it should be required fusion of the scientific field, and wide field collaboration of the carbon family should be very important possibility we can get by very contributive result for the wide range of collaboration of the carbon family. Thank you for your attention.
Right. Well, after the sages have spoken, I'm not sure how much wisdom has there left for me to cover. And I want to say that I don't think we need to worry about the science of carbon. Science has this very unique properties of taking care by itself. It's just it's within the curiosity of our students. So it's I'm not worried about that as well. Applications with carbon materials, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but all the past teach us that if needed, carbon materials will be there. We've seen graphite being used in lithium-ion batteries. We've seen carbon fibers being used. Yesterday we heard that carbon nanotubes is being increasingly utilized for battery applications, for electronic applications, hopefully. And I don't have any worries about graphene. If needed, it will be used as well. But what hasn't been mentioned is this remarkable property of carbon material for cross-pollination and cross-contamination and giving new ideas to the other fields as well. And that's an interesting story by itself, I think. It's starting very much from the first pencils, and as Professor Endo mentioned, just having a pencil, I think it just got the humanity so much forward. And then there are numerous examples. You take, I don't know, Bernal. He used graphite to develop better X-ray machine. He was the student of Bragg, of course, and then nuclear graphite. All the nuclear power won't be possible without us understanding the defects in graphite, and graphite playing useful role for in the nuclear industry. Carbon nanotubes with all these useful properties, it gave so much kick for the one-dimensional transport theory, Latinger liquids and so on to be developed further and being utilized. Obviously, fullerenes with the link between the energy scale and the topology is a new direction for theoretical physics. Graphene with all the two-dimensional story, giving a kick again for the topological insulators, for the other 2D materials. So if we look through the history, probably what is most important about carbon materials, that they serve this platform being reasonably simple and easy, well, not easy to understand, but easier to understand than the other systems. They gave rise to many other systems to be researched and studied and utilized. And I think it definitely will continue this way, but probably it's a good time for the reverse process as well. So we can start actively using carbon systems to model other devices, other materials. And I really wanted to cover it myself, but Professor Endo already had this slide. This link to the biological system is extremely important. We have all the components here with graphite, fullerenes, carbon nanotubes, graphene to mimic some of the biological systems like membranes and unique energy levels and the 1D channels for liquids or for electrons. So I think we can start playing with and creating model systems from those carbon materials. And again, it's not only for the biology. Biology is something which excites me at the moment, and it just gets into mind. But many other systems as well for the liquid filtration, for the turbulent flow, for electronics. So that's probably the most exciting part for the scientists, that we can form this simple set of the base system, which would allow us to get into the properties of more complex systems in the laboratory set. And so, without disregarding all the science for carbon materials itself, all the applications, I think its service for the other fields of science is underappreciated. It will only grow, and we should probably use it more as a standard system for the development of the other branches of science. Thanks.
Okay, thank you all so much. So we enter now the portion of this program that's based on free discussion. So are you all comfortable? We have water if you'd like to drink. Is everyone here comfortable and willing to have a conversation with us? So in this part of the program, I think Peter and I may seed the discussion with a few questions, and then we very much want to hear from the rest of you. And I can offer one question, and it's on behalf of the young people in the audience. I look out there and I see some older faces, but I see a strong group of young researchers with most of their careers in front of them. And I imagine they would love to hear anything you have to say in the way of advice for their careers, whether it's on research directions in carbon science. There are many aspects of advice one could give. Should they work on experiment or theory? Should people be working on applied problems today, or should they be working on curiosity-driven research? Does anyone on the panel like to have something to say to the younger people in our audience who would like to develop a new career in carbon science?
Do I have to turn something on? Well, I'm the only female here, so I think I have the most children and the most grandchildren of anybody on the stage. So what? So in terms of young people, I kind of deal with them, and I do lots of outreach activities for young people. Of course, I don't compete with Kroto on this. I think he was, we saw a video of him he was absolutely amazing because he stopped his work to do this. I don't do that. I come to the lab every day to do my work, and I do the public service as a side issue. But I do think it's very important for all of us to think of the next generation and do what we can to promote them. A few things of advice in my career about this is that the number of people that can contribute to the world of science, technology, and everything else like this, where I hear all the time that there's a shortage of technical people in almost every country in the world. I don't know if this is true in the UK, because I think
Definitely.
that you
Definitely.
what?
Definitely.
And I guess we had, and Russia too, I think, because we hear a lot that after Stalin left and the communist world left, that the number of scientists, I don't know, you could comment on that, but that's a very large population, larger than the population in the US, where you are situated right now, and that's 300 million people now. So, and South America is growing very, very, very fast, and I have very many connections with South America. I go there all the time. And, well, there's Central America, Mexico, this is well represented at the conference. But then we go beyond that, and South America has a very large growing population, and we have to see that they're well taken care of, and that they keep contributing to science and technology, because their political situation is very strongly connected with their ability to do that. That's kind of my comment.
Now we have 10 to the 10th people on the earth. How can we convince 10 to the 9th to become scientists?
At least to contribute to something.
I don't know. I was just going to comment a little about industrial work, just because I'm the representative.
That's sort of the fundamental decision here. You're going to try to do something practical, or you're going to indulge your curiosity.
I mean, IBM research has been a fairly unique place, and I've spent now a full career there. I've been with IBM research for 39 years, which is a rarity, I think, in these days. But
it's a rarity for a company to support research for that long.
That's also the truth. I mean, during the time I've been at IBM, we've watched Bell Labs sort of vanish, and General Electric Labs sort of transformed. And I guess one thing to say is that the point about an industrial lab is that at some level, a company is about making money. It has to produce something that it sells, and that implies that things change sort of rather discontinuously at intervals. So when the PC came along, there was a big crisis, and things got reorganized, and people changed what they were doing, and some people left. And then, you know, the PCs kind of settled down a little bit, and people decided they still needed some big computers, so the CMOS technology marched ahead, and that was fine. And then at this point, we're getting to where silicon basically is done following Moore's law. It just won't let you do it anymore because those dimensions are too small, and the leakages are too high, and the power dissipation is too great, so forth. So at that point, the thing kind of bifurcates a little bit. There's non-silicon work, which, as I tried to show, may involve carbon nanotubes because it lets you go another step further. Another branch is there are people now thinking about quantum computing and trying to do quantum computing experiments in the lab at low temperature. And those two areas still involve fairly traditional physics and material science, and very difficult problems in those areas. But then a large part of people are going off in new directions. I mean, cognitive computing, where basically you try to figure out a new way to make a machine interpret data autonomously and come up with rules but I mean, that's obviously a very different line of research than semiconductor physics, say. So, and you know, and the only other example I have right now would be, you know, this cloud computing, which means people rely less on computers they've bought and installed in their buildings and more on just putting the data somewhere. They're not really sure where it's somewhere.
Got to be somewhere, right?
And let's hope that they're backing it up, right? But that, you know, is again a disruption in the way people think about these things and what needs to be done to make, say, a company like IBM successful. So you have to be used to disruption and changes. So I've been there that long, but by no means have I done the same thing all the time in a steady academic kind of career. I've gone from lasers and nonlinear optics to surface science to quantum cryptography to fullerene materials, and I'm working on storage systems now and lithium oxygen batteries, and it's all been very interesting, but it's difficult to say, yeah, that's the path you should follow, because it's not a path so much as a adaptation. It's a very dynamic thing. So it's a dynamic environment.
People have to be broader and flexible.
But I think that's true of every place now, isn't it? Not just any, I mean, in academics, you have to be flexible too these days.
What I wanted to say is that I'm very confident that the young people can handle this, because the pace of change has become so rapid, and they've had to adjust so many times already to the way they work, the way they live their lives, that surely that's just the perfect training for.
Right, turn off your cell phones. Millie.
I had many comments about almost everything, but I think I'll probably limit to young people and my own career in that connection. I was brought to MIT to teach science to engineers. That was my job, and I've done that my whole career, actually, besides the young people. But teaching science to engineers was my professional career, and encouraging young people, especially women, was my hobby on weekends and evenings. Okay, that's what I did. But I do want to make some comments about industry, because you raised that point as a very important point for the world, and I agree with you completely. What I see, MIT is a very small school. It's one of the smallest schools in this country. We only admit 1,000 students per year, which is not a very large admission for a place like Penn State. Somebody could tell me what that number is, but it's very different from a private institution that's very expensive, like MIT. So we don't have large numbers of people that we influence. But when I go to high-level conferences, their representation is enormous, the fraction of people coming from there. Maybe they recommend their friends to come. I don't know what the reason for this is, but maybe they do have a large impact on science and technology worldwide, because only half of our students are American, so to speak. Some of them, after they come, they settle in the US, but our admission policy is 50-50, and it was that way 60 years ago when I came to MIT. That hasn't changed. So, so 500 students coming in are from somewhere else, everywhere. And I find teaching people from around the world, young people from around the world, and trying to show them the beauty of science and the importance of science for both science and engineering, because I've been a member ever since I've come to MIT of both the School of Science and the School of Engineering. And I've been a university-wide professor since the 1970s, early 1970s. So I really have students from almost half of the departments of MIT. I've had PhD students over my career. I have a very small group, like some of you saw. I only have two new students per year. That's all I accept. I've done that for my whole career. I'm still doing that. So that's me and how I'm contributing. But the fraction of students going to industry is exactly the same as it was in 1960 when I came. But it's different in the following sense. The fraction of students going into startup companies, starting their own small businesses, is what is more than it used to be. They used to go to the IBMs and the Bell Labs and these kind of places. And now they start their own companies because there aren't so many opportunities. And they fail usually on the first company. We didn't discuss failure and the importance of failure in science. I think that's a very important topic that should be covered somehow. And well, I think I've spoken too much, but I have many ideas, and I'm unique on this platform, so I think I can say a little bit extra.
I wonder whether Don and Moribundo maybe could say something about the presence of industrial research. When I started in the field of carbon, just about every carbon company in the States had a research lab. And it seems to me that nowadays we have national institutes, we have universities, and that's where the major research focus is. Is there still a place for industrial research? I think some of the carbon companies in Japan still have research facilities, don't they? Moribundo?
Yes. Unfortunately, the carbon industry is in Japan. Past was very active, but because of the globalization, not so active for future research even in the carbon company of Japan. But they have some research work in the laboratory. But mainly they want to cooperate with university. Yeah. And from a viewpoint of the curiosity, perhaps university researcher or young student can deep such a curiosity. And when you deepen your curiosity, you find something new. That is very important. And a long time ago, when I visited to MIT at first, I asked to Professor Dresselhaus. A few years ago, I verified that question, but she completely forget. But I asked to her, how do you judge the promising student and not so promising student? It's a very dangerous question. Do you remember?
And the answer I have, and I've given you for many years, but you don't like my answer, is that a professor cannot judge that, because the very best students that I've had have been very unlikely students, just like myself. My parents had no education. When I started out in grade school, the only person I knew that went to college was the teacher that was teaching me. And the doctor that you saw if you got sick, but I never used to get sick by definition. So You know, that's the problem that poor people have. They don't know about all of this, and we have to reach out to them somehow. I don't know how it is in Japan. I don't know how it is in the UK. I lived in the UK for a while, so, and I visit Japan many times. It looks to me like a similar thing, but I don't know.
No, I would completely agree. It's absolutely, I would. It's completely impossible to judge a student, and that's probably the good thing, because
Yeah, I think it's a good.
so in science there are several components which are important, and knowledge is definitely not the first. It's the initiative, the curiosity, and the hungriness for knowledge is are probably more important than your than all the knowledge you could obtain and all the good marks which you could get. So you definitely cannot judge the student this way, and that's exactly why you can't. We were hesitating when you asked us to give an advice to students, because you can't give an advice. The best student, the best projects you can give to student is the one which he invented or she invented themselves, because they would be passionate about this, and passion definitely beats the advice.
Yeah, a little bit that. Long time ago, I discussed with Professor Dresselhaus, and she explained like that. But unfortunately, because of my poor English, I can't understand almost. But finally, she said, the good student or very promising student move very quickly, and not so promising student, he sit long time. So how she can move or she can move quickly from her desk or his desk, that is very important point. So the next day, I don't stay on my desk. Every time I stay in the experimental laboratory. But such kind of action is very important. Action. When we do some action, anytime we can have result. That could be a very important concept for young student. And never, when you have a curiosity, don't pay attention only what you want to see. What only you want to see. You should pay attention what there is. That is a very important concept. I don't know, this is a very popular concept for experiment or for study, but my philosophy is we should pay what there is, and don't pay so much attention what you want. Thank you.
I think probably. We should, since time is rushing by, and we could probably be here until midnight, we should welcome a few questions from the people here, because I mean, I've got some. I could keep going until 9 o'clock, but do we have pressing questions? I see one over there. Somebody got
Please
a
make your way to the
microphone.
microphone. And just while this is happening, I neglected to give it a very important thanks to the developer of the video we saw earlier. It's Professor Steve Aqua, who's a professor at the Florida State University and director of GeoSet. We should thank him for that wonderful hairy photo.
Can you come up to the...
Well, we saw a plot of the exponential growth of research in this area, and also the massive material of carbon material that's being produced. Is this growth and also expansion in the commercial sector happening responsibly? And if so, what challenges might there be in terms of environmental impacts and recycling of the materials and limitation of resources and so on?
Would you like to address that?
Well, I'm aware of, studies on, the health effects of nanomaterials. Since fullerene days, there have been things being done, and obviously the analogy between fibers of anything and asbestos and silica and so forth immediately raise red flags that you should be careful and not breathe things like this. And so I think there is a body of research. I'm not intimately familiar with it, but I know